man. I'm doing really good. What you been doing all day? This is exactly my situation. It's been a really busy morning, and I'm not really sure who's on first and who's on second. Maybe after the press conference, you want to come into my office, have a cookie? If I had a nickel for every time that cookie offer has come. Sorry I'm late. We've got very busy legislators, and I want to get them moving. But I want to open it up and start, and before I make introductions, the reason we're doing the bill signing in this way with everybody here is because this early in the session, because getting legislation passed is hard. Even with an interim and years of work, it's hard. More importantly, it's hard when the goal is to make sure that we are identifying issues and strategies that are bipartisan. And so I am really proud of the legislature. They don't need that, but I think the public needs to know that they are getting incredible things done. And to get it done in the first week and have bills moving over to the House and the House's effort is extraordinary. And I hope it's a signal that every legislative session after this, that the same kind of strategies can be deployed. And so congratulations to you all, and let's start with the medical compact bills, because this is a session in which the legislature and this governor are really leaning in, because we need more health care access support in a number of ways. So we're going to see funding. These compacts, in my view, are critical. And while we are not doing that today, there has been strong, productive debate on medical malpractice reform. And so I'm going to make a couple of introductions and we'll get started. We're going to be signing Senate Bill 1, which is the medical compacts. Key sponsor and did a lot of work over here, Senator Trujillo, and House Bill 50, which is the social work compact. Representative Herndon also doing incredible work and making sure that that all gets done. And to talk about the process and those two bills before we quickly sign them is I want to introduce first the incredible Lieutenant Governor Howie Morales.
Thank you so much, Governor, and thanks for the memo. We matched pretty good today, so I think that's a good thing.
Oh yeah, it does, like we're going to prom.
We are. I want to welcome everybody. Thank you for the opportunity to be able to share in this, in many ways, a celebration. I want to say thank you, Governor, for your leadership. I think it's been tremendous. You set the tone that we wanted these bills passed, and we wanted them to be passed early. Congratulations to the legislature, to the Senate leaders, the House leaders, the sponsors of the bills, on having the ability to be organized, to approach it from the first week. In my 20 years that I've been up here, we had never worked in the Senate on a Friday, the first Friday of the week. But it was a priority to lead a work to President Pro Tem Stewart to make sure that we can move these forward in that first week, which ultimately, with the assistance of the House and the work that they've done there, to move it in the direction that we have it signed this early. This is the only other time I can remember having signing this early was when we passed the nursing compacts a few years back. But having 3 bills that are up here, I believe even 4 that we may have discussions with, I think that's impactful. For the medical compacts, I just wanted to share a little bit on that, because it's been many years of struggle, many years of frustration, many years of compromise. And to me, it was especially meaningful as chair of the Military Base Planning Commission and visiting with all of our military bases, how this was a high priority for them, so that all of our airmen and women won't have to travel across state lines to get the medical care. They can do that within their own bases and continue to focus on the mission that they're there for. But even more so, the meaningful aspect of this, Governor, you had an opportunity to, just right now, to invite one of the inspirations for me behind this, and to have a discussion with him, and that's Sebastian. Sebastian, right, was right here. Sebastian, I've known of his story for a few years now. And why I know of that, because Naomi, thank you so much for the advocacy that you do. And Sebastian's father, who is Michael Casellas, who's not able to be here today. Me and Michael went to middle school, high school together, and seeing the impact of what it meant to make sure we can have this passed early in this session, a true inspiration to me. And I know that the government pushed hard to ensure that people all across the state would have the benefits of the signing of this medical compact. So just thank you for allowing me to share a few words and how this is especially meaningful to me on this day.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor. And I hope, Naomi, you don't mind saying a few words after the legislators. It means a lot to us that you're here, and describing your journey with access to medical care is critical. And I think, unfortunately, there are far too many New Mexicans who are sharing your same frustrations. But welcome to your capital, and thank you very much for being here. All right, without further ado, I'm going to go to Leader Worth, talk about this process and this incredible set of achievements.
Great, thank you, Governor. Good morning, everyone. So prioritizing expedited bills in a 30-day session is a new idea that really works, and we're here to celebrate today. But I want to be clear, these bills are not being rushed. Each of these bills has been around for a while. They were thoroughly vetted through our interim committee process. The Senate, House, and Governor negotiated the details before we got to session. I also want to give a shout out to Senator Trujillo. Really, the work that she did negotiating these two compacts, bipartisan, bicameral, working with the compact staff to get to a compact that worked for New Mexico. Likewise, it's exciting for Senator Gonzalez, champion for roads for all these years. This bonding bill is a big piece of that puzzle on New Mexico roads. And Speaker Martinez, to you and the House members on the immigration detention facilities, it's taken 10 years, but we're here today to get it done, and I want to thank you for your leadership. And Governor, I know your passion to make New Mexico a better place, and sometimes it's frustrating to you because
I thought you were going to say for you.
It's frustrating for me too. It's dual frustration, but we move at a slow pace sometimes. But today, I think we celebrate the best of what we can do when we work collaboratively with our two branches of government. So I am very excited to be here, and I think this is a terrific half of the session. Lots more work to do, but we're in a good space. Thank you.
Thank you. I agree, we are in a great space, and thank you for your incredible work. Next, I'd like to call on and thank the Pro Tem, Mimi Stewart.
Thank you, Governor. Thank you for bringing us here today. Senator Worth and I were talking like, this is so great in the middle of the day. We're not tired. We're not exhausted. We don't want to go home and go to bed immediately like the last day of the session. So it's just been incredible to work this hard this early. I want to note the bipartisan nature of this effort. 2 of these bills passed unanimously. A third one had parties from both sides. So it's really that bipartisan work that has got us here, and I want to thank the party across the aisle for that help. So there's a lot of work still to be done. If we can treat the last half like we did the first half, we'll get everything you want done.
Oh, I like the sound of that so much. Look at the speakers. You can see how the negotiations work firsthand now. The whole public can. Well, I am very grateful, and again, these are really important measures. But the celebration really is that we are moving rapidly but carefully in the context of this state still is very collaborative, and I think a very effective example about working year after year, throughout the year, to get to a space so that we can deliver for Mexicans, and that has always been a bipartisan priority. So thank you very much, Madam Pro Tem. And you done?
I'm done.
Okay, then next I would like to call on and also congratulate Speaker Martinez in the House.
Thank you, Governor, and good morning, everybody. Great accomplishment, as my colleagues in the Senate leadership said. This is pretty unprecedented. I mean, we did it last year with the behavioral health work that we did, but it really takes a team, and I want to really also elevate my leadership team, Whip Hopping-Hill, Peter Spansky, Peter Armstrong, Chairman Lara, who's not here. This is a labor of love. And when it comes to House Bill 9, it's been a labor of love for 10 years, and I want to elevate Lucha Rubio. This has been her last work. Lucha Chavez, getting it across the finish line, it's a big deal. While we may not always agree on the issues, and I think the votes can reflect that on any of these bills, New Mexico should know that this legislature, our House, the Senate, and with the leadership of our governor and lieutenant governor, we will continue to do the hard work to make life more affordable and better for every single New Mexican. And you guys, thank you for being here. I see you guys at my kids' school, and I follow your story, and I just love what you do, and I love your kids. Thank you for your work in getting us to school. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And next, I'd like to ask Leader Shapansky to weigh in, and also congratulations to you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Governor. So much to celebrate this morning. It's incredible the speed at which these bills made it through the process. I want to focus in a little bit on the healthcare wins. I would say this is just a start. There are more than a dozen bills making their way through the House and Senate that will dramatically expand healthcare access, make sure that every New Mexican has access to the healthcare that they deserve. Just yesterday, we passed a budget that ensures that we continue to lead the way. We were the only state of the nation to fully replace the enhanced premium tax credits under the Affordable Care Act. The budget, we did that as a special session, and we funded the first 6 months. And the budget that passed the House yesterday ensures that the next 6 months are covered. So New Mexicans this year who get their coverage through the exchange can breathe easy, knowing that that assistance is there and making its way through the process. But I really celebrate, there's so many leaders on this issue in both chambers and across the aisle. So you're going to see us coming together again and again through this session to boost the supply of healthcare providers and make sure that patients really feel that they can access that care. And again, I want to echo, it's so wonderful having Sebastian and his brother and his mom here. I think you were one of the first people, I can remember Michael in my office saying, we've got to get these contracts done. And there are so many patients that are going to have access to that care thanks to your advocacy. So it is wonderful having you here. Thank you, Governor.
Thank you, Leader. Leader Scher.
Well, thank you, Governor, for inviting me. I wasn't sure if the security out there was to help me in or to keep me out.
Depends on the day.
For me as well.
That is awesome. Bipartisan.
But I do want to point out that certainly the Governor and I agree on a lot of things. We also disagree on a lot of things. But in this particular case, when we're talking about the compacts, absolutely, we're on the same team. When we know that there's more to do to help our healthcare system in New Mexico, we agree on that as well. And so if we can agree on things, I think it's right for the people of New Mexico that we show that we're out here standing together on those things that we can agree on and be reasonably polite in our disagreement most of the time. So, thank you.
I don't even know what to do with that.
Well, I do honestly appreciate the effort that was put in by Senator Worth. I have no idea what they did in the House, but obviously they got it through. But I appreciate that, as well as the harm to self and harm to others bill that passed as well. So that's Senate Bill 3. I think that was great work that we did together.
Unanimously at House Judiciary. Again, this is shaping up, and it's hard work, but it is shaping up for New Mexicans to be a really productive 30-day session, and that's to the leadership of every person in this room, not just at this table. And I thank you for pointing that out.
Thank you.
Leader Armstrong.
Thank you, Madam Governor, and good morning to everyone. I'm very proud that I helped with the compacts. I've been working on that for many years when Senator Trujillo was on the House side and in regulations and other things. So proud to be a sponsor on that legislation. I'm excited that I got the invitation and appreciate the invitation to sit at the table to celebrate that. I was quoted on the House floor as saying, the compacts is a start, the governor alluded to it. Without the medical malpractice reform, the compacts aren't gonna do us a lot of good. So we really need to push for that as well. As far as the road bonding we need, we also need a cash infusion into DOT, more than ever. Our contractors in our state are hurting for that. And so I'm hoping that we get to celebrate that as well. And proud to be pushing that, and proud to also Secretary de Blasi and Secretary Mijo, thanks for your advocacy and your work on the compacts as well. So thank you for the invitation, Governor.
Yep. It's a standing invitation.
Thank you.
Terrific. All right, I'm gonna do one more thing, and then I'm gonna go to the sponsors, and we'll get ready to sign. Naomi, Natal, I'd love it if you would share a little bit about your journey and your story in accessing healthcare. I think it is really both inspiring for New Mexicans to know that we're doing everything we can, and that you've got a community that supports you and respects you. But the journey's been hard.
Thank you so much, Governor. And for bill sponsors, all of you have been championing this bill for so long. To share what it means to our family, but also I think to the community that we have have become in relationship with through this issue, who have shared their stories with us. Our youngest son, Sebastian, was diagnosed with an ultra-rare, incurable cancer back in 2021. For 4 years, he's been battling that. Not yet in remission, but we have a lot of hope. I can share that we've had to cross state lines numerous times to speak with experts because nobody in New Mexico has ever treated this cancer before. We've had to make impossible decisions about whether we amputate a hand, whether we go through chemo, certain chemo that has no proven efficacy. These are impossible decisions to make. And what I want to share is that what this compact does, more than anything, is that it holds us through those moments and makes us feel not alone. Because the loneliness is unbearable in making these decisions. And knowing that we can now seek that care that we desperately need in those moments that we need them to make those decisions, that nobody can say, yes, for sure, make this one, is the greatest gift that we could be given. And that we know that so many other patients and families across New Mexico will also will feel held and will feel not so alone in their medical journeys. I also want to lift up my husband, who's a champion. Everybody knows him in this room, Michael Casals.
Everybody knows him and loves him in this room. And these beautiful children who are teachers every day. We're learning from them to be more courageous, to be more hopeful, to fight harder. So thank you all so much. It means more than we truly know how to say and express. Thank you for your courage and your advocacy. Having physicians who can have licenses across state lines creates partnerships and relationships between specialists that will not otherwise exist, causing families to travel far beyond what's good for the patient and often beyond their needs. And getting these compacts moving in this way had a whole lot to do with you being such an incredible champion. Thank you for every New Mexican who is in a similar spot, and there are far too many others. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And one last thing just to mention is that Sebastian had the most recent scan on Friday, and as we await those results, knowing the passage of this bill has been the most extraordinary thing. It lets us know that as we move forward, as we learn what we're going to learn, that all of you are with us, and that we can get that care that we need.
You are So right before we sign this bill, it's long overdue, to put a finer point on what it does, I would ask the sponsor, Senator Trujillo, to do that for us, and I'll get my famous pen ready.
Thank you, Governor. I really appreciate this opportunity. Thank you for the inspiration that you've given to us. Governor, you know that this impacts my family too, and so it has been a labor of love for families like you and mine who have to travel outside of the state to get treatment. I do want to say a quick thank you to the, I'm sitting here, but there was a team of legislators who helped out on this. Senator Tobias and Representatives Herndon, Matthews, and Jones, and I have to give a big shout out to Senator David. Without her, I couldn't have navigated through some of the technical language that we needed to address. So, you know, this reflects New Mexico's values. The medical compact, as we got it to the point that it is, reflects New Mexico values. And Governor, I just can't thank you enough for your support in helping us get this across the finish line.
She's being very nice. She said, we're only ready for a couple of compacts. And I said, pass them all. Every compact, we can get ready. New Mexicans need that. All right, I'm going to sign the bill. I already forgot what day it is. Okay, thank God. It's just too much. It's Thursday. I know it's February. I can't do it. It doesn't say on the legislation. Nobody tells me. I have to ask. So, Senate Bill 1, the Medical Licensure Compact Bill, is now approved by me, the governor, on this 5th day of February, 2026. And as I sign, the Medical Compacts Bill is now law. This doesn't seem like it's in the right order. Hold, please. Let's see. Looking for the social work compacts. This one. You guys are fired. I'm going to be a fire, Sam. All right. To put a finer point on the social work compact bill, make sure that people know how that will impact practicing across state lines and kind of license reciprocity. Another way to describe that, but not quite accurate. Representative Herndon, would you take us through it?
I will, and thank you very much, Madam Governor, and to everyone who helped to work on this bill. I'm so pleased that I can hardly talk. So I just want you to know that there is nothing greater than knowing that we have passed this House Bill 50 other than the one that we just signed into law. But for years, we've been working on making sure that there were wellness rooms, for example, in our schools. But then who was going to be there to help our children? Who was going to talk to them and help make sure that they had someone to talk to? Right now with this compact, there are going to be people who can help our students, our kids, when they need someone to talk to. There are people who say, we're facing a crisis and we need someone to talk to, and they're not children. So we want to make sure that we're there for them and that there will be someone for them. But Governor, you know what? Being on the House Appropriations Committee, one of the things that we've done is we are making sure that we're growing our own and growing people to come in and help us, for sure. And I just wanted to make one last comment that with respect to the dozens of people who have passed this legislation and work on it, I want to thank Senator Trujillo and Representative Silva, who's absolutely in the room today. And I'm grateful to see this signed into law. And Governor, you have made today exceptional. And thank you.
You are very welcome. Come on up to the table. All right. So, without further ado, and I now know that it's February 5th, so we're ahead. House Bill 50, the Social Work State Compact Bill, is approved by me this 5th day of February with my fancy dad pen, signed by me. House Bill 50, the Social Work Compact. The compact bill is now law. All right, we have 2 more bills, 4 bills to celebrate, and I don't know what happened on Saturday. You're not fired. I can't fire him, thank goodness, because he's fantastic. The fact that he hasn't fired me is the real thing we should be talking about. So we have two more bills. We have the road bonding package, and that is $1.5 billion. Frankly, we need more like 7.5, and just given not just state roads, but local roads, the reality for New Mexicans, this is a 12, 15, $20 billion situation that this state is not alone in facing. But moving the needle, creating predictability, getting more construction crews, dealing with public safety, and making sure that New Mexicans are not bearing the burden of not just unsafe roads, but incredible maintenance costs. If you don't keep these roads maintained and safe and modernized, the people who pay are the drivers and everyday New Mexicans. This means that we can immediately get 9 major road construction projects off the ground in this year. We estimate that it could bring as many as 13,000 jobs, and over the life of this, more than double that number. It's an economic development tool. It's a public safety tool. It's a long time in coming, and we had a couple of glitches last year that this legislative body, also in a bipartisan way, were able to course correct, and it's right upstairs, and it should be a message to drivers, to businesses, to contractors, to our road crews. We are open for business, and we take our roads seriously. And so, without any further ado, let's hear from Senator Bobby Gonzalez.
Thank you, Governor, Lieutenant Governor, to our audience and to the fellow legislators. For the Department of Transportation, this is one agency that has self-funding, and unless we add additional or something, for example, of this legislation, extra funding doesn't come to this department. We have to see that New Mexico is the 5th largest state, and we have many miles, and we have a low population, but we do have many miles. We have 6 districts, and each district commissioner is always really looking at the top priority for the district. The important part here is that this funding, as it was mentioned by our governor, is putting projects from start to finish and having the funding available, to do this, and also in a very responsible way, where it's an incremental as the projects are being done. This is how the bonds will be sold. The important part is, again, as it was mentioned, it's economic development, but also the safety part and looking at the liability for our state. It's much needed, and it's the beginning. We do need a lot more funding to this, but it is the beginning, and it's an extremely positive beginning. And with that, everyone that was involved with this, we have a couple of our articles sponsored for the bill here today sitting with us. We have Chairman Munoz, and we have also Arthur La Cruz. And the funding for this, is it's going to be a real change to New Mexico in the way we do business with our infrastructure for the system of roads. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator, and I'm sure there will be questions about the bonding package, but it sets the stage for continuing a funding journey to make sure that we keep our roads safe, keep them maintained, and make sure that interstate commerce is secure and successful. Senator Munoz, would you like to say anything about the bill?
I'll yield to Representative De La Cruz.
Okay, Representative.
Well, Governor, first, thank you for the invitation. It took a village. It took a village called the legislature, the governor, and all the wonderful staff that we have. And I am just appreciative that we're finally getting this across the line, but couldn't have happened without Senator Munoz, Gonzalez, Representative Hoffman-Hill, and of course our leadership, Sopansky and Martinez. So thank you for this day.
Thank you. I've been wanting some kind of a road package for quite some time, and again, thank you for the heavy lifting to make sure we get a bipartisan package, because for the press and everybody else, it means that more will be coming. If we can't find a bipartisan path on funding roads, I worry that it's not secure in the years to come. So congratulations to everyone, and again, without further ado, let's see if Sam got them in the right order. Yes, you did. I don't know where you are. All right. You'll help me hold it? All right. Senate Bill 2. $1.5 billion in bonding 9 road projects right off the bat on this 5th day of February. Signed by me, the governor. Is ready to disperse. Last of the 4 packages of bills. Oh, now we don't have these. I'm not allowed to have these after I sign them. House Bill 9, the Immigrant Safety Detention Act, is something actually I talked to the leadership about, and I want to do a shout out to Speaker Martinez and Senator Nava, who's not here this morning. But last year, there was no question in the context of the change in federal administration that immigration enforcement was going to be an issue that states were going to be wrestling with in the context of protecting their citizens, meeting federal law and requirements, and frankly threading some, I think, very complicated situations, or I guess needles is the word, but it's complicated. And there isn't anyone in this room, and there's not anyone in America who isn't troubled and concerned and quite frankly afraid about what they're seeing all over national news. In the 30-day session when I indicated that I'd like them to debate this bill, and it would be my bill, we would introduce. I know there are complexities, including this is not that we are not going to work with the federal government on serious criminal activity of all kinds. And if the federal government is interested in that work in any context, this is a governor that would be available to negotiate that. If we are not talking about serious criminals and felons, we should not be complicit in an unaccountable, non-transparent situation with detention for civil issues. And when the Mexicans come to us, come to me, and want to know where their loved ones are, I can't get any information. It's incredibly cruel. And our detention centers, particularly a couple, have long been in the news, far longer than a decade, for questions about whether or not there was fair, credible, constitutional treatment of the individuals who were being detained. In a situation where we have a federal government that is not compelled by those issues, at least today, New Mexico should be compelled to protect people in every single context. It's a challenging environment. We want to rise to the occasion. If you listen to the debate, it was incredibly passionate because people here know what's at stake. And our human morality in this context is exactly what we are defending. And I am very clear about that. And I do want to say, again, there isn't anybody around this table, if we have serious criminal activity in any context, we'll lean in to deal with that serious criminal activity. That is not what's happening in America, and we will not be participating in those efforts. So without further ado, I think I'm going to start with Representative Chavez to talk about her work on these issues, if that's okay with the speaker.
Good morning, Madam Governor, legislative colleagues, and members of the press. I want to take a moment to express my deepest gratitude to the advocates who have worked for years to help get us to this day. House Bill 9, the Immigrant Safety Act, will get New Mexico out of the business of detaining innocent people in deplorable conditions. As the federal government ramps up its mass deportation efforts, and as we see horrific violence at the hands of ICE agents in other cities, it's more important now than ever that we take a stand as a state to say we won't allow this in our backyard. More than 1,000 people are currently held in ICE detention facilities here in New Mexico, often unlawfully. Detainees have included people with temporary protected status, people granted DACA, and with the facility not allowing requests for bond hearings. The human rights violations at these facilities have been well reported. From lack of clean water and fresh food, to inadequate bathroom facilities, and an absence of medical care that has led to permanent injuries, mental health decline, and even deaths. This legislation reinforces protections for New Mexico's immigrant communities amid a tremendous amount of fear and uncertainty at the federal level. Passing this bill makes our communities safer and sends a message to all New Mexicans that they can work with local law enforcement officials when they need help without fear of deportation. Today, New Mexico stands strong with our immigrant communities that are so vital to our state and to our culture, and against the cruelty and mistreatment pushed by this administration. Thank you to my House and Senate colleagues, and to you, Madam Governor, for your commitment for doing what is right by the people of New Mexico. I have never been prouder to be a New Mexican.
Thank you. Incredible. Hi. Have a
Good
seat.
morning,
She was here, and we are at the very end of the signing, but welcome. Got it. All right. So we can get to questions, and we have other experts on all of these bills. I'm going to sign House Bill 9, the Immigrant Safety Act, approved by me this 5th day of February. Michelle Lujan Grisham. The Immigrant Safety Act is now. We are now at the place, your favorite, where you can ask us any questions as long as the vast majority of those are directed towards the legislators. That never hurts.
Who wants to go first? How about Joshua Boland?
Governor, there's been a lot of discourse today and throughout the session over the bipartisan support for the medical compacts and other measures that we've discussed. But to Leader Armstrong's point, do you think there's still work to be done on the front of medical malpractice reform?
I do. I'm hopeful. I think the work in the House, and I want to thank Representative or Chairwoman, Chandler, for her incredible work. The original context of that bill was something that certainly we've been working at the executive level with our healthcare and legal teams on medical malpractice proposals. The amendment, I'm a little concerned about, but it's getting the right debate and attention. I expect that a medical malpractice effort bill is going to be moving to the Senate. That's my expectation. Got to wait and see it. I'll be listening and watching. And I think we're going to have some work to do in the Senate. I have been very public about I think unlimited liability or punitives in any context in medical malpractice is an unworkable situation for New Mexico. I don't think it's enough to turn the tide. And I think the bigger issue that legislators, and that's my opinion, you'll have to ask them, that legislators are debating is that in America, we have a very perverse for-profit healthcare system. And until the federal government makes significant changes to that system, which they have failed to do, although the Affordable Care Act, in my view, was a good first, serious, comprehensive step, it's not enough. Medicare is administered through for-profit systems. If the message is there's unlimited liabilities for punitives in hospitals or any other context, they will not stay or expand. And so we're trying to expand. We need to have accountability, transparency. We need to figure out different ways to hold for-profit and nonprofit institutions, facilities, programs, and hospitals accountable. And if you're looking for serious issues, this state and other states, nonprofit, state-run facilities are not exempt from many of these government issues. It is not just for-profit. And I think it's a mistake to try to carve that out, and this is again me, because it feels like we should be angrier, I am, about the for-profit context of healthcare in America. This isn't going to fix it, but it means there will be far fewer access. And you have 7 rural hospitals already on the brink, 3 of which in New Mexico were on the brink of closure before the changes at the federal Medicaid level. So my message to legislators, and I'm talking too much, is we would entertain and participate in any number of ways to hold hospitals and other healthcare institutions and programs more accountable and more transparent. Anybody here tried to read if we could just get the billing practices and the medical loss ratios and what we pay out managed and more transparent, that would go a long way. So I'm hopeful. Does anybody else want to weigh in after my incredible diatribe? Yes?
Yeah, I'm going to weigh in. Thank you, Governor. And great question. Look, I've said over the course of the last couple of years, there's no silver bullet to fix healthcare. And you hit the nail on the head, Governor. The real problem with healthcare is that it's become a commodity to be traded in Wall Street. And it's not the doing of this legislature and this governor. This is a practice that this country adopted 60, 70 years ago. And that is a problem. We want to fix healthcare, let's go universal single payer. That will fix healthcare, guaranteed. But until we get to that point, medical compacts, more funding for Medicaid, medical malpractice, everything else has to be on the table so that we as a legislature and us as a state can better stabilize the system and ensure that every single community that needs healthcare can access it.
Can I just add, because I think it's important.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of work that's been done on medical malpractice. There's an agreement to cap punitive damages for all doctors, the 20% independent and the 80% that work in hospitals. I think we'll get there on that. There's an agreement to put the hospitals back into the patient compensation fund. That was a huge issue. That was the 2021 discussion that we had. I think that's been reached. I also think a lot of the concern I heard from doctors who came to see me from Santa Fe was this idea you've got to plead punitive damages in every single case. If there's an agreement that we can change that pleading standard, that's a really important thing. I think there's an agreement that local hospitals also are going to get that cap. Really, the place that there's going to be tension is whether or not these multi-billion-dollar hospitals out of Tennessee should be capped on punitive damages. And that's a discussion we're having. It's a good discussion that we're having. But I just want to, we're halfway through a 30-day session, and I think it's been messaged we're 90% of the way there on this bill. And that is a big deal. So we're going to keep talking. That's what's important. These parties are talking, and we're certainly encouraging that to continue. And so we're going to work hard, Governor. You're going to get something up here, and again, we'll obviously be talking with you as well as it moves through the process, but I just want to emphasize how far we are versus, you know, the focus on the final piece of it, which is gonna be hard, there's no question, but we're gonna have that discussion.
I think that's a really fair point that the leader has raised. The leader and I, we hate medical malpractice discussions because we've had many of them in very difficult circumstances because it's not an easy thing to get done. So this is not our first rodeo on these issues. And this last year, the Senate and the House and the executive and all interested parties have leaned in, and it's been bipartisan about what our expectations are, what we need to get done, and how we're gonna get it done. And we don't celebrate that we are talking to each other. We're not quite there. I don't know if I would say it's 90, that was a good one. But this is incredibly valuable, and we are really working hard to demonstrate that we can figure out how to solve complex problems in the state of New Mexico. And that we've got a lot of people who will work hard and are willing to do that. And no one's gonna get everything. But if we get New Mexicans most of it, then we have all done our jobs. And that's why we wanted to have such a large, more celebratory environment for bipartisan work, from roads to medical compacts and really good medical interventions and investments. Because I think that too many Americans and too many New Mexicans think that we're not doing that work in the legislature, and in fact, we are. So I really appreciate that. Does anybody else want to weigh in on that now?
Everybody else.
Not me. Next question.
I stayed in my lane. Jessica Barone with Care.
Hi. Two questions, one for the governor, one for the legislature. Governor, we've seen a couple of CYFD bills going through. For example, HJR by Representative Chavez. Are there any that you support?
No.
Okay. Would you like to expand on that at all?
Every state, including this one, which we have owned and discussed publicly a number of times, struggles in a antiquated, problematic, bad federal requirements and bad environments for 30 years, and we have not escaped that either. And when I say escape, it's the governor's responsibility and legislators and other folks. It is our responsibility to try to navigate it. If we keep trying to squeeze it because we're all frustrated, there isn't any person, there's not a single person who isn't motivated by doing better for children. And that is a universal, bipartisan, nonpartisan. We are all highly motivated there. But if we keep squeezing it, restarting it, it does not, in my opinion, get better. It gets more challenging. And now that I've got the whole of government, we fixed workforce solutions that way. We fixed healthcare and Medicaid operations that way. We fixed corrections that way, where I bring all the cabinet. It's not just CYFD's problem anymore. It is now all of the Health and Human Services Secretary's problem. We decided that the private sector should be doing it, so the MCO should be responsible, but we struggle with for-profit accountability and who does what. We think it should just be CYFDs. We think it should be now a new commission. We think it should be regions. We think, fix the system in front of you. And here's a good example. 2020 hindsight. I regret that I signed the bill in 19 for CARA. I signed it without any funding from the legislature. I was convinced at the time that we could all pull it together and that money was coming. Money never showed up. It was never a real navigation system. It was never put into the MCOs. The MCOs, and when we were dealing with COVID and healthcare, people were not focused on making sure that the behavioral health or related services were available anywhere for anyone. Courts weren't ready. State wasn't ready. Don't have social workers. That is a recipe for disaster, and here it is in a nutshell. We were releasing, after they were well enough to go home, infants in the care of highly drug-addicted parents who were not required to take any service or get treatment for their addiction. And I don't know if there's any better recipe for a disaster in America than that one. And since June, and I got a lot of heat for that, that's fine, for just changing it. Because I couldn't get legislative activity, it kept being delayed for a year or longer, and had no funding or accountability. I can't do that anymore. So, within the confines of the current laws available to us, we went to judges and said, you tell us whether or not this baby can go home. And for 180 plus cases, 178 judicial decisions were, under no circumstances is that baby safe in that environment. And since that time, we have not had any major issues with those babies. I would say the proof is in the pudding. That gives us now a chance to focus, and we've built teams and navigators and data and systems and training, and we have 2 parents who went to treatment, only one is still in treatment. Our preference is that we reunite and get parents the help that they need, but they have to want that help. If they don't want it, I can't make them. I'm feeling very confident, and I want to thank the House for putting money in the CYFD. And I don't know if that's a reflection that things are feeling better, or the recognition that the courts have said we have to have that money in the first place. But we're on the right track. That does not mean we are there. Office days, we're going to meet that deadline, and it's because now the Health Care Authority is going to make sure that every child who meets waiver criteria is going to get those services and supports. Why that wasn't happening? It just wasn't happening. Everybody gets siloed. I would ask the legislature, we're not going to fix this problem by siloing it in yet another set of circumstances without sufficient funding or any support by government on waivers, Medicaid, healthcare, facility accountability. None of that would go with it. That's why I don't support it. I want to end with this. These legislators care about this issue. They want me to be accountable and responsible. They're entitled to that. They represent these families and this state. Their criticisms, in large part, have been well-founded, and I think we've been receptive and received in the way that we should. But I don't support current efforts. I think that people are going to continue to see incredible changes because we have 6 or 7 secretaries working on these issues, and it needs that kind of attention.
And then my other question was for the legislature. We're a little over the halfway point. Are there any bills that you're still optimistic you can get across the finish line, or any that you're disappointed in that didn't make it through?
I can start. I mean, I think that, we're halfway through and we're excited about what we've accomplished today. And there's a lot more to accomplish. We've got the budget, which passed the House yesterday. It's now with the Senate. We have a really good relationship between the House and Senate and the budget teams, and so we are sure that we can come together to get closer to some of the executive requests, as well as being fiscally responsible and investing when we need to invest. We've got Senate Bill Parks up another Senate Bill 3, which passed, as the governor mentioned, the Judiciary Committee last night. We should have that on the floor here in the next couple of days. That's another important bill, something that the governor's been working on for a couple of years, and so we're ready to get that across the finish line. There's a lot of other good healthcare work that got out of the House, several other compacts that are now in the Senate that I hope we can lift up as well. So there's still a lot of work to do, it's not over till it's over, whatever the saying is. 12 o'clock on February 19th, but who's counting? There's still some tax work that needs to happen. There's some good tax proposals out there, some of them coming out of the executive, the Senate, the House. We're looking for ways to build some capacity. So keep your eyes and ears open, because there'll be a lot more work left to be done.
Well, this is also the time where bills are crossing from House to Senate and vice versa, so your questions seemed like we were done. We've just started. So what we've done, I'm serious, what we've done in the first half, we can still do in the second half. There are important bills, both House bills and Senate bills, and we're focused on those, and we have to continue to work. So I'm assuming we're gonna get a lot more done in the last 2 weeks. Remember how this works. In the last week, we get 4 hours of sleep. I know I'm focusing on sleep. We make the most decisions, totally exhausted, and most of the time we do a good job. We make some mistakes, but we're only halfway up the hill, and we intend to finish what we need to finish.
I'll just add this. I've done 2 30-day sessions at the end of a governor's 8th year. The prior 2 didn't go so well. So I just think this is a huge step forward. What you're seeing is the type of collaboration and bipartisan collaboration that needs to happen. And we really, again, I'll speak, our Senator Bison here, I'm going to put my partisan hat a little bit, but it's bipartisan, just celebrating the work that we've done under this administration and all we've been able to accomplish. And again, I've been here for 22 years, and there have been really tough times. And I look back, and the governor's navigated through COVID, fires, floods, all these incredible things, and it just feels like it's important for us to keep this momentum that we've done this first half of this 30-day session and really, I think, deliver. And so I appreciate the words that have been said. And again, I think we're in a good place sitting here 16 days in.
That's a lot better than being in a bad place. And I've worked for governors that had a rough start to that last session, so I thank my colleagues in the legislature. Senator, because you joined us a little bit later, we're delighted to have you. We did the medical compacts bills and the social work first, then we did the road package, and you heard us discuss immigrant safety. Is there a couple of bills that you want to talk about and a couple more that you hope get up here?
Well, I will say that we've worked a lot on the medical compacts. I'm pleased that you signed them today, and thank you for that. It's a good start, and I know we're continuing conversations on the medical malpractice piece, which I can say that I have lived in the hospital, not only here in New Mexico, but out of state with my husband for the past 5 months. We have been living this firsthand, and I will agree with the governor that the system is fundamentally broken. It has required me being at his bedside or another relative for 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, to make sure that he gets the care that he deserves and desperately needs. And I can only imagine what other families go through. It's why medical malpractice reform is also so important to me and the rest of my caucus. We have to do better for every New Mexican so that they have access to medicine and so that we aren't running doctors continuously out of our state. I'm glad to hear from the governor and the leader of the Senate that we are close, but I don't know that we're there yet, and that would be my #1 priority this session, is to make sure that when we leave on the 19th, that every New Mexican is in a better place when it comes to their access to medicine. Thank you very much.
Governor, I wanted to ask you on HB 9, there was a lot of debate about the economic impacts on these local communities if these facilities were to close. Do you think the state should play any role in kind of helping them out if these facilities close?
I do. We have a responsibility for doing better rural economic development. We've already got Secretary Black really thinking about that. I don't think that's an unfair criticism by members of the legislature. We have a long history in the country that we put these kinds of programs and facilities to create economic development. It's not very stable. It's never really created stable economic development. I agree with the counties. I think the legislature owes them a little money on detention. And it looks like there's at least a $3 million gap. We do need detention, and we need relationships with local governments for jails and any number of things. And quite frankly, we share a responsibility with Albuquerque's jail gets too full. We take those more serious offenders and move them into the correction systems temporarily until trial. There is some corrections detention efforts unrelated to ICE that shouldn't be minimized. 2, we will also in corrections. So, for example, Torrance County folks could actually take state jobs and not have to go too far to Santa Rosa, which in New Mexico is not an unreasonable commute, so we'll reach out to those folks, because we don't want people to lose their jobs. And lastly, I think you're gonna see some attention by folks in the legislature, and I don't know whether you wanna weigh in, Mr. Chairman, about there might need to be an economic investment. There are always, in large-scale philosophical policy changes, some unintended and intended consequences. And we have a responsibility collectively to try to mitigate and minimize those.
Yeah, Governor, yeah, and look, a couple of things. So we've got $6 million in the budget to help those communities look for ways to transition and develop their economy. And I'm gonna echo Senator Rubio's words, right? We also as a state shouldn't just depend on these problematic, extractive, oppressive industries for economic development. That is not an economic development plan. Furthermore, this bill does not shut down these prisons. That's also been just a mischaracterization of this whole thing. It does not. You still have to hold the drunk drivers in your jail. You still have to hold the domestic violence abusers in your jails. These jails are not going to shut down. We are not shutting down anything. We are simply prohibiting these contracts with private companies, with the federal government, to detain people for civil immigration violations. That is it. I think there's been a lot said in debate on the floor of both chambers about how we're shutting down these prisons and eliminating jobs. None of that is true. Lastly, I think that, again, channeling Senator Rubio's words on the floor of the House, we've got to be creative about economic development, guys. I mean, since when did it become acceptable to profit off the lives of innocent people held in deplorable conditions that none of us, not one person in this room, would allow our loved ones to live in? I'm proud of this work, I'm proud of this bill, and I'm proud of the work we're doing in the budget with the House and the Senate and the leadership of the governor to ensure that those communities are kept whole in every way.
Let's do two more. We'll go to Griffin Rushton at POV, and then we'll go to the Associated Press Board meeting.
So I wanted to build off what Jessica asked, but for you, the governor, last regular session of your term here, got 2 weeks left. What are the other priorities, big bills that you're really hoping to get up here?
Well, we'd like to, more of the healthcare compacts I'd like to see upstairs. I don't want to jinx it. That's a question like, don't jinx it. I'm feeling really good about, but want to make sure that momentum continues for harm to self and others. It's that connection to competency. We can treat folks who are a serious danger to themselves or the community and get them the care and help that they need. That really relieves some of these burdens on our unhoused population providers. We just had a horrible incident in Albuquerque. There's a lot more to be done there. Certainly I'm watching and am feeling good. I don't want to jinx it, about fully funding universal childcare. For me, universal childcare means if there's a copay, it's not really universally applied. Some people are means tested and some aren't. I think that discussions in the Senate, thank you, with your leadership about making it recession-proof. And that is a viable, fair, productive conversation about stability and predictability. And I've been reminding folks, for every dollar we spend in childcare, we get $11 back. It's both an economic driver, it supports families, it means people move here, it means families can decide to have a child or a second child, and it means our child well-being greatly and dramatically improves. And if we went from 50th to 17th in childhood poverty, we'll go from 17th to 85th. And made that stat up, but it will trend in that direction. I'm hoping for some of our other budget must-haves. I'm feeling pretty good that the vast majority of bills that we've given a message to, I know we've got some really tough environmental debates coming. I've made it really clear that codifying net zero is important to me, and also economic development is important to me. And so I know legislators are leaning in. tough set of circumstances, but I'm hopeful that those two things get married in a productive way and that gets upstairs to me. And we've got a lot of privacy and reproductive health care bills. There's a ton of health care stuff that is both in the Senate and the House. And lastly, it's a great place for me. There's a lot of public safety that still needs attention. And felon in possession, if we had different sets of penalties and different ways to deal with time served for murder, you wouldn't have had that guy out on I-40 with an automatic rifle. Then he lost his life. We have to do better here. We're not doing enough in my mind, but look, we just got a bill out of Senate Judiciary that does more about gun violence, more about automatic weapons, and more about accountability for straw purchases of guns, which I guarantee you get into the hands of people who are already barred from having guns. So I think there's a lot of stuff going on. I could talk for longer than I did. Does anybody else want to weigh in about some of my priorities?
Your literacy bill, your
Oh, yes.
Office of Special Education.
I forgot those. Those education bills have been a long time coming, 30 years for the pro tem and 7 for me. Those are incredible. I want to thank the House. They really leaned in hard and have an LFC who supported those bills, the LESC that endorsed those bills. That's going to change the trajectory for New Mexico's public education system forever. And thank you for reminding me. There's a lot to celebrate, so keep getting ready to come. Just leave your stuff right here.
I know everybody's got a very busy schedule, so let's wrap it up with Morgan at 268.
Madam Governor, if we could return really quickly to the House approved bill proposal and the idea of adding co-pays. Does that undercut what you were trying to achieve with what's in place right now? And we think people will be disappointed
Yes.
who now saw a free
Yes.
return to co-pay?
Yes, I mean, they're calling it universal, so I feel really good about that. I want to thank the House. You're embracing, but a copay doesn't make it universal. Universal means it's the same way to get the service for everyone who's in the service. It means that, just like public education, we don't know which families are billionaires and which families are not. Folks with higher income levels have different strategies for childcare because they can. I am not worried about that. I really feel extremely confident about that. But here's the fact. 12,000 kiddos were added to our childcare system from November until today. And well more than 85% were already eligible at 400% of poverty. So now we're going to require them to pay copays, which wasn't the case before. That doesn't make any sense. Furthermore, the triggers that we're talking about with the Senate, that the House would have to approve, so I mean, this is all in flux. It's less than 9% of the families that are at these really higher income levels that we're all struggling with. If you develop a system for 9% of the population, you will hurt the 91 to 92% of the population that has been waiting for infant care, 24-hour care when they're doctors and nurses and firefighters and police officers. And I believe, more than I've believed anything, that what this legislature has done with this governor and lieutenant governor, from cradle to career investments in families, is the model for America and is the model that moves us from a state that talks about its risks and poverty to a state that only talks about its opportunities and successes. I mean, there's another federal report, I can't remember it, and we'll make Mike give it to you because he snuck it in there. And I couldn't, that ranks us now 7th for economic activity in the country without growing the population. That's something we have to work on, strategies to grow the population. But that's unheard of because we are doing incredibly well. It's because they have their eye on the prize. So that's really important.
Isn't this still a really generous benefit, even with a small copay, 5%? Anyone want to speak
You
to
talk
that?
to the families who are trying to figure out their food, their rent, their utilities, their mortgages, saving money so that they can buy a house. They're going to tell you it's incredibly challenging. And every family that I talk to, almost irrespective of their income, it's two things. That when it's narrow, we don't build an infrastructure, so it's got too many gaps. Ask anyone anywhere, there's too many gaps, regardless of income. And two, even though we've had such wage growth and family income increases, it still puts us in a precarious place. These families just don't have enough to make it. And if we're really gonna talk about opportunity, they have to be able to save, they have to be able to buy a house, they have to have safe vehicles, they need a future. This is that future, and it's, I didn't do this. And this is a real opportunity for me, and I know they have to go. We have one of the highest per capita rates of special education in America. Whole lot of reasons, poverty amongst the large one. Child care with child development, family, infant, toddler, home visiting, nurses, and all that support, brain architecture that moves into pre-K programs. This is how the entire public education system changes, and more importantly than that, these are kids that are ready, that won't need to be in special education, with parents who won't need behavior specialists, and all of that. It is an incredible shift in how we invest in New Mexico's future. The evidence is clear that that works, that that's what it takes. So why is it that the wealthiest country in America, and one of, if not, given all of our assets, the wealthiest states in America, wouldn't invest in solving those problems for the littlest among us and their families? That alone is worth the universal child.
And yeah, Governor, I agree with you and Morgan to your question. I think from anyone sitting at this table, I don't think anyone has done more on building early childhood than probably me. And I'm not one to toot my own horn, but before I was elected, I was an advocate fighting for the constitutional amendment for early childhood, which was really how this whole thing got started. After that, we get the Early Childhood Care Department, we get the Early Childhood Trust Fund, Big Props Groups and Gallegos for that work, and the late Senator Smith. And now we're at this table having the conversation of how to build universal, which is a great problem to have, right? I mean, if you would have asked me 15 years ago when we started this that we would be debating universal, everybody would have laughed because that wasn't even a real possibility. I think that the work that the House did is building toward universal. And I know this is an area where we disagree slightly. I do think that if you earn a certain amount, a small copay, for now, as we build out universal access for everybody, is okay. Having said that, we are also heavily focused not only on the families who need it the most, right? Hence the copay. Understanding that copay probably, assuming it survives the rest of the session, it probably has to taper off at some point because we are all committed to full universal. But equally important, we gotta take care of the educators. These are folks who forever have not been treated as professionals. And so in our budget, we are investing $60 million a year for the career wage ladder, which the experts around this area of work have told us is greatly needed in order to improve those outcomes and to ensure that as we build out the universal system, it is also high quality. So I'm proud of the work that we did on this. I'm grateful to the governor and the secretary for pushing this back in October, November, and really challenging us to step up to the plate. And I'm looking forward to working with the Senate and the executive over the next couple of weeks to get as close as we possibly can to the dream that we all have and we all share of universal childhood.
And I'd just like to add, I want to say thank you for mentioning that, Speaker, and the work that was done in the House, I believe at $80 million, where we're at right now. And just recognizing that from a financial perspective, and I'll yield to Senator Munoz here shortly, but from a financial perspective, Senator Munoz and myself, we're here in the legislature, in the Finance Committee, when we were at 0% reserves, where we were having to cut $400 million from our budget. We didn't have permanent land grant permanent fund opportunity to tap into, as the speaker had championed for so many years. We didn't have an early childhood education trust fund that was started at $300 million, and now sits at $10 billion. And reports that's even up to $11 billion. And I think that gives us the opportunity and assurance that we do have the opportunity to fully fund this, and to recognize the importance of what that means to people across the state. Since this was rolled out, and the governor was bold to make sure that we would address, for all the things that we're told that New Mexico ranks last or dead or towards the bottom, this gives us an opportunity to get up along. And I truly believe that we have established that across the country, that other states are looking at how did New Mexico do it. And with that being said, when you look at the data from November 1st that's been rolled out, you see the highest areas where this is being implemented: Otero County, San Juan County, Lee County, Eddy County, Bernalillo, Santa Fe. It doesn't matter which part of the state. This is a program that families have been able to really utilize and develops into a workforce issue. But the work that the House did, again, very appreciative of it, and that's how the process works. The budget moves over to the Senate. We got the next 14 days to be able to work on that. And I've been very grateful for the work and the communication that Senator Munoz, the Finance Committee, has done with Secretary Grisham. And I'd like to have him share a little bit of that financial perspective of what that means now that it's in the Senate.
Well, you're going to see a rollout on Friday morning of Senate Bill 241, which has the early childcare structure in there. It's a very complex, well-built piece of legislation that invests in New Mexicans. Whether you are on the higher end of the income, you pay taxes, you benefit. You'll see that roll out. We've had a lot of negotiations, 3 or 4 weeks we've been working on this. A lot of back and forth, but I think we're there. It fixes the problem in New Mexico, and we build that system. And everyone should participate equally. Just because you're a millionaire doesn't mean you can't participate, because you pay taxes too. Because you're lower income, they need to participate at a higher rate. And it brings New Mexico up. And I will say one thing that I see the session leading up to is, you're not only that, Governor, but this is going to be the biggest win in the session. This is going to be the session where you see the biggest wins for New Mexico and New Mexicans you've ever seen. The way we're going to invest in New Mexico. I said this and we said it, we're not a poor state. Our investment funds are on the way to $100 billion to beat Alaska and to be the #1 state.
I love beating Alaska, you have no idea.
You better tell your SIC boy to get to work. But we're going to invest in New Mexicans, and we're going to invest big to win in New Mexico, whether it's through childcare, whether it's through economic development, and strategically aim at those things and beat other states this session.
Thanks for coming, everybody.
Yay! Congratulations to the